Hey, we're back here again with Guess Who? That's Ted Thomas. And Ted, of course, is America's tax lien and tax deed authority. Always good to see you, Ted. And, we've been talking about tax liens, tax deeds, or both in different states. We're now traveling to Pennsylvania. And we want to talk, we want to talk about Pennsylvania tax deed sales. Is this a good state for folks to shop for tax deed sales in Pennsylvania?
Oh yeah. Tax deeds, yeah. What they do in Pennsylvania is they have a complex process. However, if the people don't pay the taxes, ultimately they're going to lose. The property would be confiscated, and the sheriff and the treasurer will actually sell the property to the highest bidder. That's what happens.
Okay.
It's a tax deed state.
All right, tax deeds. I asked this because there's one of your viewers on your YouTube channel was asking about buying tax liens in Pennsylvania. But to be clear, Pennsylvania is a tax deed state.
All 67 counties are going to sell tax deeds in that state. Okay. Now they can have all kinds of liens on other things, but properties, in other words, homes, you could have vacant land, you could have a farm, you could have a small office building. If you don't pay the taxes, there's going to be a tax defaulted auction, and they're going to sell the property. It's called a tax deed sale.
Tax deed sale. All right, let's talk about the auctions then. How do the auctions work there in Pennsylvania?
Well, it's a little complex process, and it kind of shakes people up a little bit because there's a lot of steps that it goes through. So the first thing that the county will do is they have what they call an upset sale. Then I'll give you all three of the things they do first.
That actually sounds like a very upsetting term, Ted. I mean, upset sale.
Yeah, well, it is upsetting because if you buy at the upset sale, you get all the liens on the property, all the judgments, all the people that didn't pay child support, that their wife has got a judgment on the property. You're going to pay everything. So the upset sale, you'll be upset if you buy it. That's a good point you made. Good point you made. Don't buy at the upset sale or you'll be upset. Okay, they have a second sale. That's a judicial sale. Now, what does judicial mean? That means there's going to be a judge and a court and all that stuff. So a judicial sale, what they do at that sale is the liens, they're taking the liens off the property now. Now, they can never take all the liens off, but they'll take off the deed of trust or the mortgage, and they'll take off judgment liens and so on. So it'll bring a lot of that debt off the property. So that's where people want to buy. And then there's a final auction, and that's called the repository sale. Now, These are all auctions. Okay, so you had one, you're going to be upset if you go to the upset one. The judicial one sounds to me like that's the place to be. And now here's a repository, and that means it's a leftover. Nobody wanted it, but the government will still sell it to you. So is that a lot of sales in Pennsylvania? Or
That's a whole lot. Hey, I'm curious, the repository then, is that a particularly good opportunity just because things have trickled down? Or is that property that's like,
Well, I tell people, check those properties out, because in other counties, they'll call them forfeited lands, leftover lands, surplus lands. Every state has that, because if they have an auction and nothing sells, well, then what is the government going to do? They can't just trash the property. It's there, so they've got to do something. So they just put it on another list. And in Pennsylvania, that list is called the repository list. Now, the treasurer and the state is allowed to make any deal they want on that land. So some people buy those properties for 5 cents on the dollar. Now, I don't know all the rules right now in Pennsylvania, but we can certainly get on our computer and we can look up all the rules for a repository sale. But there's going to be all three of those. So if you don't know what you're doing, you better learn how. That's what I'm going to tell you.
Well, are they clearly marked that way? I mean, is this a repository auction? Is this or are those all mixed within one auction?
No, it would be one county, but those would be individual sales at different dates.
Okay.
For example, the upset sale would be first, then probably 30 or 60 days later, maybe even 6 months later, there's a judicial, and then so many months later, there would be a repository. So in the course of the year, there could be numerous sales. And of course, if you have a state like Pennsylvania, you got 67 counties, boy, you got a lot of auctions. See, most people don't even know that this is a business. Well, think about that. 67 counties, you never have to leave your home state.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So let's say you end up with a piece of property in Pennsylvania. You're excited. Does Pennsylvania have a tax sale redemption period, or boom, you and your property?
Well, that's what a judicial sale is all about, man. When that gavel comes down, that baby's sold. So it's over. So they don't have redemptions in Pennsylvania.
Okay. All right. But a lot of opportunities you mentioned, there's plenty of counties out there. There's almost counties times 3 sales, apparently, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
What's the best way finding when these sales are going to be happening in Pennsylvania?
Well, I always tell people start out locally, the local county, and if they have townships, you go there. They have records, and they'll give you a list if you request it. They'll give you a list of the properties that are coming up for auction. Now, in this case, there's 3 different auctions, so you want to make sure which one you pick. So they'll give you a list. They also put those in the newspaper. What we've created is we've created a way to do that electronically, so someone can sit at home and they can dial up any county in Pennsylvania, and electronically they can put a cursor over that county, and it will tell them how many properties are going to be at auction. And then if they want to, they can take classes and go right into the county records and learn all about that property.
That sounds pretty helpful, especially in a state like Pennsylvania with a lot of confusion there. I mean, in terms of what you're buying and what kind of auction you're getting into. So.
Exactly. But if they'd like to have an auction list, they can go right below me, and they can inquire. And when they do, they can get a free auction list just to see what an auction list looks like.
Well, take advantage of that. And Ted, thanks so much.